Hey guys, it's Sarah here. So I wanted to make a discussion/theory video on Valyrian Steel, Dragonsteel, and some notable weapons in the Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire universe. So first off, Valyrian Steel is very light and very sharp. Most Valyrian Steel swords never require sharpening. These swords were first forged in Valyria, and there is currently no one known to be able to forge Valyrian Steel anymore, as it used a lot of magic and sorcery involved in the process. However, there are a few people who can melt down existing Valyrian steel in order to reforge it. Valyrian steel has a dark, smoky, rippled appearance and is pretty rare. Some people believe blood magic is used in the forging of the steel, along with dragonfire, but it hasn't been confirmed. So why is Valyrian steel important? Well, we've seen in the show that Valyrian steel can withstand battle with the White Walkers' ice weapons and can destroy them, and the same conclusion is suspected to be true in the books. Therefore, many people believe that the legend of Azor Ahai and his flaming sword Lightbringer was actually a sword made of Valyrian steel. Now, this shouldn't be true because the Long Night ended before the rise of Valyria and therefore before the invention of Valyrian steel. The first men in Westeros mainly used bronze weapons and had little knowledge of iron or steel or how to forge it, let alone something more complex such as Valyrian steel. Knowledge of iron and steel came to Westeros with the Andals after the Azor Ahai and the Long Night situation. So a quote from Sam Tarly in A Feast for Crows kind of confuses things a little bit. So here it is. I found one account of the Long Night that spoke of the last hero slaying others with a blade of dragonsteel. Supposedly, they could not stand against it. Dragonsteel, John frowned. Valyrian steel? That was my first thought as well. Now, I personally believe that Dragonsteel and Valyrian steel are different, but they could possibly be related. RSYCN, Ryson? I don't know how to pronounce it, but they posted a theory on Reddit that dragon bones were possibly used to forge Valyrian steel, stating that to create steel, carbon is often added to the mix of metal, and historically, people used animal bones to provide this carbon source. So it's possible that dragon bones were used as part of the forging process to add carbon and magical qualities to the metal of Valyrian steel. So some have theorized that maybe dragon steel was a more crude weapon made of dragon bones. But since dragon bones are impervious to fire, it would have been difficult to forge a sword without dragon fire, but they could have possibly carved the sword out of the dragon bone. Now, since the first men had little knowledge of steel, carving a weapon out of dragon bone seems more likely than forging it. So perhaps it's just called Dragonsteel, or maybe Dragonsteel is just an early form of Valyrian steel and was made by somebody other than the first men, or maybe Dragonsteel is referring to something more like dragon glass, which we know also is useful against White Walkers. So I think there's a whole lot more to this, but I don't really have the resources to flesh out a decent theory on it. But think about it. Let me know what you guys think about Dragonsteel versus Valyrian steel, because I think there's something there. Something else interesting that I came across on theory forums was this. Reddit user Mirupu8352 says, assuming that the others were thwarted during the Long Night, long before Valyrian steel could have been produced, and that they were fought and repulsed in the known world and not some technologically advanced civilization of which there is no evidence, how could the dragon steel used in combating the White Walkers possibly be Valyrian steel? Now, here's a little bit of tinfoil, but has anyone heard of, the oily black stone monuments or buildings that are littered across the known world that belong to a people that existed long ago and that nobody really knows about? I think this comes up more in the world of Ice and Fire, but the Seastone chair was made of this stone, as was part of Ashai, and so was the Toadstone on the Isle of Toads. So many people believe this was actually an advanced civilization that existed long ago, but there's not really any written evidence of them. We just know they were there, but we don't really know anything about them. So maybe they had some part in the Long Night and the formation of Dragonsteel. Who knows? There's a lot of mystery and uncertainty here, but would love your opinion on it. One thing is for sure, though. We have encountered a sword in the series that has the traits of Valyrian steel, but is not actually Valyrian steel. Could this sword be an example of Dragonsteel? Could this sword have been Azor Ahai's original weapon to fight the White Walkers during the Long Night? And yes, I'm talking about Dawn. So Dawn was supposedly forged from the heart of a bleeding star, or something, a meteorite. Dawn has all of the properties of Valyrian steel, but is not Valyrian steel. One of the major differences being its coloring. Dawn is milk white, while conventional Valyrian steel is a smoky gray color. Dawn belongs to one of the oldest houses in Westeros, which is House Dayne, who were likely around during the Long Night, and who have the blood of the first men. House Dayne is also interesting because along with having the blood of the first men, some members also have a few Valyrian qualities such as violet eyes. It would be interesting if this family held a sword that was like Valyrian steel but wasn't, since this family sometimes looks like Valyrians but aren't. I'll be making another video soon about Dawn being the original Lightbringer soon, so keep an eye out for it. There are other theories out there that Lightbringer might not actually be a physical sword, but I'll save that discussion for yet another video where I discuss all of the possibilities and theories about what Lightbringer could be. According to Archmaester Thurgood, there are only 227 Valyrian swords in Westeros. I've included a link to a page that lists those that we know of and who they belong to, which will be down in the description, but I'll go over the most important ones with you here. So we have the original ice, belonging to the Starks, could be in the crypts of Winterfell, but all we know about it right now is that it's lost, it's gone. Now there's also the new ice, which is held by the Starks. It was stolen from Ned when he was murdered, and melted down to be reforged into Oathkeeper and Widow's Wail. So Oathkeeper now belongs to Brienne. It was given to her by Jaime for her quest to protect Sansa and Arya. And Widow's Wail was held by Joffrey, so I'm assuming it's belonging to Tommen now. We also have Dark Sister, which is a Targaryen sword, but it was lost, so we don't know where it is right now, but it was being carried by Bloodraven or Brynden Rivers, so he might still have it, or he might know where it is. Not sure. There's also Blackfire, which is also a Targaryen sword, and that's with Aegon right now. Then there's Longclaw, which belongs to the Mormonts, but was given to Jon Snow after he saved Jorah Mormont from a White. Some people believe that it's actually Dark Sister, but I don't really think there's a whole lot of evidence to suggest that, so we'll just stick with Longclaw and the Mormonts. There's Heartsbane, belongs to House Tarly. It's still theirs, chillin'. Then there's Lady Forlorn, belongs to House Corbray. There's Nightfall, belongs to the Harlaws. There's Red Rain, possibly belonging to House Rain, and stolen and owned by the Drums. And then there's Bright Roar, which belongs to the Lannisters, but it was lost when King Tommen II of House Lannister sailed to Valyria and never returned. Some other notable Valyrian steel weapons in the series include a dagger that belongs to Peter Baelish, which was used by an assassin to attempt to kill Bran in the first book or the first season of the show. And there's an arak owned by Kago, and an axe owned by House Celtigar. Not sure how to pronounce it. Also, Euron Greyjoy is seen by his captive brother Aeron in a suit of black scale armor that's looked like nothing Aeron had ever seen before. The scales were dark as smoke, edged in red gold, and gleam and shimmer when they move. Patterns can be seen within the metal, whorls and glyphs and arcane symbols folded into the steel. Euron wears it as easily as if it was the thinnest silk. The revelation dawns on the shocked Aeron that the armor is forged of Valyrian steel and that Euron has indeed been to the ruins of Valyria. So that's also interesting because if Euron can get a whole suit of armor made out of Valyrian steel from his trip to Valyria, are there still people there who can forge Valyrian steel, or was this something he just found? Seems unlikely that he just found it because a suit of armor is usually tailored to the person who wears it. So it's an interesting thing to think about. Maybe there's someone who can help us or help the characters in the story forge more Valyrian steel. Who knows? So anyways, I'll link below a couple of theories about Dragonsteel, Valyrian steel. Please stay tuned for more videos. I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything that I've discussed, and thank you so much for watching. Cheers!